8 seconds.
This was the first scramble. This solve was a 0.89. I saw on green you could do 3 moves to get to this EG1 case, or you could do 4 moves to get to a CLL case. On yellow, I saw that there was a 4 moves to EG2, but you could also cancel it into an anti-CLL, but it wasn't too great. So the solution I ended up going with was on yellow, you can do a layer by holding it here and doing R prime, F, U prime, R, U, R prime, and then getting diag and decent, but you can actually cancel into one of the algs I know. So when I had it here, I just did R prime, F, U prime, R prime, U, R, U, F, R2, F prime, R.
Eight seconds. 12 seconds.
This was the second scramble. This all was a 6.63. I tried to do a PBL solution on green, but I ended up one-looking it wrong, so that's why it wasn't a good time. If I had done this solve again, I probably would have either tried to do some kind of face on red to an EG1, and on blue there was a 3-move layer into soon. So it probably would have been better to do either of those solutions, but I didn't end up seeing that in an inspection, so it wasn't really a good solve. This was the third scramble. This solve was a 0.84. I first saw on yellow you could do 2 moves to get to this EG2, which I usually just make the layer with R2, F2, R2, and then just do CLL, but that wasn't going to be too great. So I also looked on blue and saw that there was a 3-move face into this EG1, and you could kind of cancel into it, but it still wasn't too great. So the solution I ended up going with was on white. You could do 3 moves to this CLL, but instead of doing that, if you do 6 moves, you get this CLL case, and you can actually cancel into one of the algs I know for this. So when I had it here, I just did F, R, U prime, R prime, F, R prime, F prime, R, U prime, R, U prime.
Eight seconds. 12 seconds.
This was the fourth scramble. This solve was a 0.99. I saw that there was a few things you could do. On blue, you could insert with 4 moves to get a J prime, but instead of doing that, you can insert with 5 moves like this and get this CLL, and you can actually cancel into one of the algs I know for it. By when I had it here, I could just do L, U prime, R, U prime, R prime, F, U prime, R prime, F prime, R, U. But instead of doing that, I also saw that you could do an F and then U2, R, U2, R prime to get this TCLL case, and you can actually cancel into one of the algs I know for that. And it would also be around the same speed as the other solution I just showed you. But the way I ended up doing it was on white, you could do 1 move to this TCLL case, and one of the algs I know for this is it would start with an R, and then you just finish with U, R prime, U, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, F, R prime, F prime, R.
Eight seconds. 12 seconds.
This was the fifth scramble. This was a 0.99. I saw there was a 3-move layer on white to a not very good CLL case. On red, you could do 6 moves from here to get to this Nicholas, or from here you could do 4 moves to get to this pi CLL case, which isn't very good. But the solution I ended up going with was you can do 5 moves to get to this CLL case, and you can actually cancel into it because it starts with R, U prime, R prime, and when I had it here, I just did R2, U prime, R, U, R, U prime, R prime, F, R prime, F prime, R2, U, R prime, U prime.